finally realize the principles of the revolution: bread, freedom, and social justice. In order for us to safeguard the principles of the Egyptian revolution, we need to focus on building the civil society in Egypt. There are many innovative and creative NGOs and CSOs that have been working on ground in Egypt for years in very harsh conditions, and we're here now as New Egypt organization to support them on ground, whether they're working on human rights, on environmental activism, or on education reform. We're a group of Egyptians here in the UK, and we're saying enough is enough, and we're going to do all we can to give back to our country. So one of the ways that we're helping today is by selling t-shirts for the No Military Trials campaign. You can find the t-shirts being sold over there in all different sizes, and we're giving away stickers as well. Since the revolution ended last year, more than 12,000 civilians were taken into military court, while we're still waiting to find out to put on trial people like Mubarak, etc., for the crimes that they committed during the revolution. The revolution hasn't ended, it's only just begun, and it will take a long time to build up Egypt to be the greatest country that it could ever be. Thank you.
Woo! Okay, just something I wasn't planning to say, but just seeing here our ability to protest from all over the Arab world and from the UK is very moving. One thing that having the Supreme Council of Armed Forces in power has meant that we've been too focused on Egypt, and we haven't been able to stand in solidarity with Syria, with Yemen, with Bahrain, with Tunisia, and I'm really glad we're able to do this today. So real sorry from all the Egyptian people that we haven't been doing much for the rest of the revolutions, but we seriously are in our hearts and we're fighting this fight so we can fight again for the Arab world at the end. So please forgive us first. I want to speak about what's happening today in Egypt. I wish I was there, honestly. Yeah, I wish I was there, because today students and workers have started a general strike in Egypt. There are more than over 50 universities that are striking, 300 unions that are striking, many workplaces, tube workers, public sector transportation workers, private transportation workers, even school children have walked out. There are more than 100 high schools that are seeing striking students today. So there is a general strike. And guess what? It is on the very day we commemorate the ousting of Mubarak, and we still have to go on a general strike. We still have to go on a general strike because the regime is still intact, because the Supreme Council of Armed Forces hasn't changed anything. In fact, it's made the situation maybe worse. We've lost at least one person every single month over the past year under SCAF. We have seen 5 massacres with more than 300 people killed and thousands upon thousands injured. We've seen 12,000 civilians tried under the military that Rania mentioned, and the economic situation has gone really bad. So actually, after a year of going bunker, staging sit-ins, protests, demonstrations, occupations, there was no alternative but to go on a general strike. A general strike to ask SCAF to step down now. And honestly, I'm not in Egypt, and I want to take the opportunity that I'm here around Arabs and around people from the UK, because for me, this is not just about Egypt. This is a global revolution. This is people fighting with people from all over the world against regimes. This is how I see it. And it's so important for me that today, the people who sat and were inspired and everybody glued to their TV for 18 days, looking at Tahrir Square, think a bit what we can do from here to support these people who've inspired us. I don't know if you know this, but David Cameron, the esteemed Prime Minister here, was the first person to visit Egypt, first leader, 10 days after Mubarak was ousted. Cameron was visiting the region actually with arms suppliers. He's supplying arms right after a revolution has just taken place in Egypt and was starting all over the Arab world. Yeah? And Cameron, what did he say? He pledged that he will support economic reforms, a democratic transition, and a quick shift of power from military to civilian rule. Of course, Cameron hasn't honored his promises. In fact, this government continues to support SCAF today, like it supported Mubarak, and has denied the calls on the street to ask SCAF to hand in power to civilians. They're doing it again and again, siding with the regimes over people. And so, for us here, it's important to call on SCAF, to call on Cameron and the government to stop supporting SCAF. But for me, as somebody working on the debt campaign, working on the group from Drop Egypt's debt campaign, I want to bring out something that maybe is not very known here. Vince Cable has actually refused to let the Egyptian people know what the debts they owe to Britain are made of. He says he knows the total number, but he won't tell us what the loan contracts are made of. He has also denied that there are calls from people on the streets, people in Egypt, people like myself, my group, Drop Egypt's Debt, who have asked for Egypt's debt to be audited, and the illegitimate ones, the audience ones, that Mubarak has made in our names without us having any say to be cancelled. He says he didn't hear of this because CAF has actually not asked for it. The government is doing it again. They're siding with people and neglecting the regime. They're siding with the regimes and neglecting people. Were we killed with these arms? Are these something we've paid for in our own debts? We don't know. We actually don't know because Vince Cable is refusing to be transparent and refusing to be accountable to his own people and to Egyptians as well. So I want to use this opportunity to be very clear. This is a great opportunity to be able to speak to especially people from Britain and to ask you to support us in three things. First, don't let coming generations of Egyptians be burdened by a debt they had no say in. They had no say in borrowing and was actually made by a dictator in their name. Allow for a debt audit and call for Vince Cable to allow for a debt audit and a debt cancellation. Two, stop harboring ministers that are, sentenced in Egypt and taking refuge in the UK. And three, stop supporting SCAF and ask them to hand in power to civilians now. يسقط يسقط حكم العسكر. يسقط يسقط حكم العسكر.
يسقط يسقط حكم العسكر.
يسقط يسقط حكم العسكر.
يسقط يسقط حكم العسكر.